Well, never mind all that stuff, because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered. Yeah, I know, amazing. But that means it's time for...
Living your life and you're feeling low. You don't know what is true. You don't know what's true. So you quick flip through the channels to watch Sunny on The View. Oh my God, the stuff she says is dumb. Where the hell they get this woman from? She's a hoe's, always crass and lame, with lots of nonsense to proclaim.
No, Mercury in retrograde isn't to blame for Sunny Hostin's dramatic meltdown on live television. In addition to calling her out, Greg Gutfeld's takedown essentially set the stage on fire. Even the teleprompter gave out and began to malfunction like a malfunctioning arcade machine because the situation became so stressful. The hypocrisy, completely uncovered. The drama, extremely wild. At a Black Friday sale, tissues were flying more quickly than trainers. Everyone anticipated this confrontation, but nobody dared to acknowledge it. To be honest, anyone who has ever watched The View might have foreseen it. But when the cameras stopped shooting, Sunny Hostin blurted out something that no one could have predicted.
Fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Those hens are always clucking. They get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, and then I get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, except purpose. But every now and then, one of those dingbats inadvertently says something that reveals modern liberal thought so perfectly, it deserves further study. You know, like a weird serpent that washed up a beach and you want to poke it with a...
It was more than just a mistake. It was astounding. Sunny didn't simply lose her temper. She went utterly crazy. And not in the typical way that people respond to a question that is a little challenging, like what is your favorite color? No, this was a very different matter. A full-fledged, slow-motion, high-definition television collapse. And right in the middle of the storm, the unanticipated star of the pandemonium was none other than Greg Gutfeld. More hypocrisy was exposed by this incident than The View has been able to conceal in the previous 20 years.
So, Sunny, I bet you haven't been in a supermarket since COVID for about 3 years.
I haven't been in a supermarket since COVID. For about 3 years. That's when I discovered Instacart. And I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs. You know those big Bounty towels you don't want to carry? Costco. Somebody else those.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable. Hey, I'm an but at least I tip.
It was insane and crazy, but it was unforgettably memorable. It began like any other Tuesday on The View, complete with a trademark group therapy vibe, loud affirmations resonating across the set, incessant backpatting, and the standard chorus about how they're miraculously preserving democracy on their own, one ignorant hot take at a time.
Hostin's obsession with race is thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense, white privilege, and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took.
The presentation became more of a monologue than a conversation when Sunny Hostin arrived and launched into her never-ending fixation with race. The stress, tangible. The collapse, renowned. With all the excitement and little accuracy, it was like watching a child play Guitar Hero for the first time. Sunny Hostin took center stage and shared what she called deep insights.
I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So, feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. Guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Fact fact of life. Interesting change of tune. For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
But the main points were very clear. Facts are optional. Nothing is ever her fault. And if you shout loud enough, something will suddenly become the truth. If you haven't enjoyed the view, picture the most tumultuous Facebook comment section on a political post, but with hosts who once browsed a Wikipedia page about the Constitution and now think they're ready for the Supreme Court. Sunny, too. Like the missing component of that disorganized puzzle, she fits in. Dubbed the voice of reason, but only if your interpretation of reason include claiming that everything that doesn't fit her triple-shot latte worldview poses a threat to democracy. To be honest, I'm still getting over the whiplash. However, Greg Gutfeld was the manifestation of karma.
Milk this till the end of time. You're right. Anytime she says something stupid, I'm going to go, slave owner! Kat, just watched that. That's the second time I've watched that. She was tipped off beforehand, right? Because she had to tell her before, so she had time to regroup. They wouldn't just surprise. Do you think? No?
I don't know. I feel like she could have maybe done better. Okay.
Greg isn't your typical TV personality who wears a suit and smiles. During dinner, he is the person who expresses exactly what everyone is thinking but would never dare to utter aloud. Sunny, poor thing. She wasn't prepared. She folded as quickly as a cheap lawn chair in a hurricane the instant Greg began pointing out her biggest hypocritical moments. It was unadulterated mayhem and utterly captivating. Let's discuss Sunny's purported superpower, which is her insistence on civil discourse, despite only a few weeks before labeling half of the nation as goblins that threaten democracy. Civil conversation.
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect this patriarchy here because it's to their benefit.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing.
Yes, but only if you completely agree with her. Do you disagree? Congratulations. You have been cast as a villain in Sunny's twisted reality. It seemed like mayhem in a power suit, a cross between a middle school lunch drama and a courtroom outburst. However, Greg was far from done. He went into full detective gear and began examining receipts as if he were in charge of a forensic investigation into Sunny Hostin's whole public record.
Joy Behar gets racism. After all, she's been black on Halloween. Yeah. But Joy wasn't on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. But that is convenient, right? It's like one of my aunts dies every time Kilmeade wants to hang out. Maybe Joy needs a full day to read her hate mail, and that's just from the rest of the cast. So Scott had to deal with Sunny Hostin and her typical self-righteous.
She is crying over family separations at the border 1 minute, and then her favorite political allies act in the same way. Suddenly, it is about complex policy nuances that ordinary people would not comprehend. Is it hypocritical? She might as well have it embroidered on a throw pillow now. Greg didn't hold back. He let everything out like a storm of washing. Sunny's fury functions like a dimmer switch. When a conservative even sneezes, it instantly turns on, and when a liberal stumbles over the Constitution, it turns off entirely.
But unlike this chick, we didn't think it was the best thing that could have happened to us. Although it get Joy Behar to wear a mask. You make me sick. It's funny, her being named Joy is like me being named ugly.
She's the kind of person who supports politicians who couldn't spell ethics, even if you gave them the E and the T, and who demands thorough investigations over a stray tweet. And Sunny, it was a full-fledged political circus. In the center ring, exactly. As anticipated, The View's viewers remained devoted throughout. Even if Greg Gutfeld had presented them with a scrapbook of Sunny Hostin's contradictions, each page signed by her, they would still have jeered him for spreading hate.
Did you watch the whole thing? Or just the parts that I sent you?
I watched it. Obviously, just the parts that. Did I watch a whole episode of The View?
No woman can do that unless it's stupid. But
I have a job.
Here's the thing. How can they call themselves progressives when they keep saying nothing has progressed? Then it's on them.
Right. I just wish I could have, what I could have watched if I could, would have been Joy Behar watching that.
Yes.
And being like, I totally made the right call. Like, it was not an accident that had him there on her day off.
Yes.
When she was, presented herself as the, expert on systemic.
There are no surprises. As expected, Sunny went for the most traditional tactic in the TV playbook, reversing the plot and adopting the victim role more quickly than you could say audience sympathy. She transformed Gutfeld's fact-checking into a full-fledged assault, not only on herself but also on all women, all minorities, and possibly even a few rescued pups, with a quivering voice and tease so well-polished they might have had a broadcast sponsor. Simply expand the battlefield till it is saturated with emotions when the facts don't support your position. Not to mention that this is the same Sunny who has been nonchalantly insulting millions of Americans from her comfortable position at ABC for years without ever anticipating that the spotlight would turn against her.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist.
It was the height of emotional gymnastics, the kind that would win a gold medal if Olympic judges gave points for showing no self-awareness at all. In order to protect their co-host from the terrifying prospect of being fact-checked, the other members of the View team sprang into line as Sunny spiraled, resembling cowboys circling the wagons in an old western.
More time to talk. And I thought Will Smith wouldn't let a black man finish. If her IQ was half as high as her smugness, she'd be Einstein. And later it got weird after Whoopi Goldberg asked a question and Sunny chimed in.
That was all that was required to set off a complete meltdown. A morale booster that essentially said, facts are just a social construct, was even offered by Whoopi Goldberg. It's real if you can feel it. It's real life, even though you couldn't have written it any better. Producers were apparently in full-blown panic mode behind the scenes, rushing about like it was Defcon 1, all enraged by Sunny's emotional collapse. Anyone in the spotlight would assume that being called out for public hypocrisy on live television would be another Tuesday, but this time it's different. This struck in a unique way. In one instance, the Emperor sobbed into her pricey designer coffee mug as Greg Gutfeld stood erect and declared simply that the Emperor was naked. They could have proposed it as the storyline for a brand new Marvel film called The Gaslight Avengers if they had put in enough effort. Greg Gutfeld, meanwhile, continued to triumph. There was no shouting, no emotional outbursts, just that arrogant grin that throws the professionally outraged into a tailspin. He is well aware of how the game is played. They will accuse you of assaulting body positivity the moment you bring up the Emperor's buck nakedness. Sunny, poor thing. She is imprisoned, unable to break free from an unending cycle. She's constantly reminded of that small episode, the one when she melted down faster than butter in a microwave, whenever she attempts to get back on her moral high horse. The View should now take a serious look in the mirror and perhaps even think about welcoming visitors with genuine, varied viewpoints. Who knows? Like adults who can have a conversation without requiring a fainting couch if someone disagrees, they might even begin to encourage discussions once more. Let's face it, though, the View's chances of adopting intellectual honesty are as slim as Sunny Hostin's chances of winning a Pulitzer Prize for political bravery. Instead, get ready for episodes that include guided breathing exercises, emotional support llamas, and a touching 3-part series called Why Feelings Matter More Than Facts. What about Sunny? She will continue to assert her superiority, conflating height with morality, and making long-winded lectures on the value of truth, all the while avoiding anything that even vaguely resembles the real truth, such as radioactive waste. Greg Gutfeld will keep doing what he does best, which is cool, collected, and vicious, reminding America that the Emperor is not only nude but also demanding a standing ovation for his make-believe outfit. Sunny's breakdown provided us a genuine gift, if nothing else, a front-row seat to the televised reminder that hypocrisy usually ends badly. Telling yourself and your audience fairy stories is only so much you can do before someone points, laughs, and the whole act falls apart. We laugh so hard, man. Sunny's collapse was caused by the clash of fragile egos, phony outrage, and harsh reality rather than just politics or being exposed. This time, the globe watched in high definition as the typical wheel of fury landed squarely on humiliation. To ensure you don't miss the next crazy breakdown we cover, click the bell, hit the subscribe button, and smash the like button if you love the experience. We appreciate your time and hope to see you at the next one.